Hey, Detroit, I don't know if the motorcycle knocked me out or whatever knocked me out, but I'm still on again, and I'm going to post them both. This is Aaliyah Moore, just coming to you from the bus terminal. But like I said, the board and Dr. Nikolai Vitti, he's allowed to say that Miss Michelle Davis from David Aerospace is on to something by, trying to explore the bikes and have bikes for her students, and that, of course, he loves using these words as well. They're exploring philanthropical partners to kind of expand this. You could have bought bikes, sir. You could have bought bikes, board members. Stop playing with Detroit. Remember, I did a live at CMA Detroit. They continue to play in our face. This man is in the media, in black and white, playing in our face. So shout out to that principal, Miss Davis, over at Davis Aerospace. David Aerospace is on the list of schools that can't sustain themselves. I will post that list this week because I did 13 different lives. Facebook has taken them down, but they will be on YouTube, working on that page as we speak. But it explains the definition of they can't sustain themselves, meaning they can't pay their bills. David Aerospace is on that list. When they did the fanfare and the rah-rah, the babies going back to the airport, I did a live at Davis Aerospace to explain that situation. In June, David Aerospace had 96 students for a high school that is teaching children how to fly. Missed opportunities because this board and this superintendent failed these schools and wanted them to advertise themselves. David Aerospace has been on this list for some years of a school that can't sustain themselves, meaning that they can't pay their bills. They don't have enough students entering the building to pay their day-to-day bills. Period. So Detroit, I'm not going to talk y'all ear off, but when the media comes, and I don't even know who suggested this, because if anything, the story should have been centered around this teacher. This teacher, this principal, the story should have been centered around why DPS had to make her go through this. When we have money right now, we got a rainy day fund. If they talking about spending up to $40 million in Gregory, Michigan for a camp, how do we get to the camp? Don't we got to use these to get to the camp? Or we going to fly the kids to the camp? I'm being so serious, Detroit, because this media, this board, this superintendent, it's about what they're being allowed to do. And then, the plus, they're going to continue to pay the students to come to school. But once again, the money that you're using to pay the students, Vitti even dropped it down some more. So he talking about they might even pay middle school and elementary school. Didn't hear that before in a committee meeting, but hey, I digress. But Detroit, where are the bikes in the warehouse? Latrice McClendon found them. Where are they? Are they going to David Aerospace? Are they going to any school? How long they been in the warehouse? How is Miss Davis on to something when she should have never had to do this? She could have spent her time and energy to getting a grant for something else spectacular concerning what? Aviation. But she got to try to get her babies to school. And then Vitti got the audacity to say she's on to something. But we have him here 8.5 years, and now the rationale, which has always been we poor. Detroit, we just started becoming poor, or it's just more and more. Hey, I understand the economic challenges, but if you understand that, why would you put your money where you put it? Instead of thinking outside the box to be able to generate more revenue, which is enhancing buildings, working on your curriculum. Because before I let you go, Detroit, once again, I'm going to post this slide when I post the 19 schools that can't pay their bills. The top two things of why people left this district and went to charter schools, transportation was at the bottom, kind of, but it was mainly curriculum and support. Academics / curriculum and support. And so support can mean many different things. But you can't lie when it comes down to academics. Transportation And they know, this was also in the article, Detroit, 1/3 of Detroit residents don't have cars. Dr. Vitti and the board knows that 50% of our students do not attend their neighborhood schools. And that's been a fact for years. So when you're running money, when you have money, and you do things like put most of your money into buildings, when I mentioned that it looked kind of hood rich, they looked at me like, what? Like we just kind of won the lottery and just start buying clothes instead of going to the doctor and looking in our insides. You know what I'm saying? It's like when I talk like that during those meetings concerning the 700 million, they just looking at me like, huh? What? But let somebody else would have done it. You know, that would have been considered hood rich. That would have been considered ghetto spending, what we did with that $1.27 billion, Detroit. I'm not going to talk y'all ear off, but shout out to that principal once again for doing what she did. This district, once again, tries to take credit for people's innovative ideals. To me, at least these babies is getting the bikes. But when you have a superintendent and a board that could have bought thousands of bikes, that could have purchased a couple of more buses and put routes for high schoolers. And then he got the nerve to say, with Henry Ford and East English Village at Finney, you know, this pilot program will help improve attendance to those schools as well, because it's safer than bikes and more reliable. So if you know that, why you didn't direct your spending in that way, sir? Because he's allowed to. He's allowed to do what he wants to do. And we had a yes board at the time, with the exception of Sherry Gay Denyogo. She was the only one that said no for the $700 million vote. But the remaining of that board at the time just let them do it. And even revisiting that money, it can happen with the current administration. That's thinking outside the box, right? Because if you got interest, there's already a plan for that interest money. But you're the board. You got rainy day, you got everything. You could buy bikes, you could buy buses, you could buy whatever you want. You'll get a bus, you'll get a bus. You'll get a bike, you'll get a helmet. Seriously, Detroit. So shout out to that principal. And like I said, shout out to each and every staff member that go the extra mile. Even though you may not get appreciated, you are appreciated because that took effort. And it takes effort for a lot of these staff of all kind to come in and do their job on top of do the extras for the love of these children. And so, and for the betterment. So shame on this district for taking that shine. I am looking forward to these pilot programs, and I do hope at both schools, East English Village at Finney and Henry Ford, that those parents and students are properly notified of the mutual ground, that they will pick these students up and let them know ahead of time so that they can sign up and benefit from the program. Because like Vitti said, it's safer, it's more reliable, and it will improve attendance at those schools as well. So be blessed, Detroit.